All right, everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a topic that has been requested from one of my YouTube subscribers. And the topic I'm going to talk about is why do we sell a casino affiliate website? I'm also going to talk about how to sell one, the pros and cons with selling one, the reason that I've been personally selling a lot of these affiliate websites. I'm also going to talk about kind of how you evaluate the price for a website. I'm going to talk about the handover period, how you basically transfer a website to a new owner. I'm also going to talk about a bit like an earnout period, which is basically a period after the sale where you can maybe boost the numbers a bit. And I'm also going to talk about a bit about buying websites as well, because I think that might be interesting as well to know about. I'm also in this video going to share with you how many websites I've sold myself and also kind of the price I got for these websites, because I think that is also something that is interesting for people to know. And if you're completely new to this channel, my name is Adam. I've been working with casino affiliate marketing for 8 years. I am obviously running this YouTube channel as well, because I do like to share information about casino affiliate marketing. I've been doing this a long time and I'm still very much doing it. This YouTube channel is kind of my hobby. So with that being said, I think I'm going to start with the PowerPoint presentation. Let's see if I have that one somewhere. Let's see here if I do like this. I have an empty document. I'm going to use it in a second as well. And here's the PowerPoint presentation. I guess this is the first one. So what does it mean to sell a casino affiliate website? And it's kind of self-explanatory. I think that maybe people are confusing it a bit with selling a company, because obviously that is also possible. I've never sold a company myself. I've only sold websites as assets, just like you would sell, I don't know, like a couch, maybe a bad example, but you understand that you're not selling the rights to own your company. You're not leaving your own company, at least not in my cases. I've been selling them as assets, transferring ownership basically of the website. So basically what happens is pretty straightforward. If someone buys your websites, they own everything that comes with the website. So the domain, the content, the traffic, and in some cases also the affiliates accounts. I think, let me think a bit. I think in every time I've sold a website, I've also sold affiliate accounts. At least for the bigger websites I've sold, I've also given the owners the affiliate accounts, because obviously there's some values in this as well. Because if you have a lot of recurring players that are on a revenue share, the buyers are also getting this commission. So I'm going to do this slide as well. Then I'm going to go to the Word document. Then I'm going to continue with the slides. So one of the reasons I like to sell a website is, firstly, I'm getting a big payment upfront with money that I can do whatever I want with. I can reinvest them in new ideas. First time I sold a website, I actually bought an apartment for that. So that was amazing for me. An apartment that has been appreciating a lot in value since I bought it in 2018 or something like that. And also selling a website, what you're doing is that you are selling the risk to someone else. So like in any type of business venture that we can ever be in, there's always a risk of running a business. Something can happen. I mean, in extreme cases, your website can get hacked, you know. Also in other extreme cases, you can get a manual penalty from Google, so you lose all of the traffic. Maybe you are in a market that gets heavily regulated, so you lose a lot of your revenue. That's what happened to me in the Brazilian market. And also, like I mentioned, reinvesting in new projects. Also, building a website with kind of like an exit strategy in mind is also something that I like. Obviously, you have to work on a website for quite some time because you are selling a website on a multiplier. Maybe I can go through that as well before I go into my websites. So there's also obviously pros of selling websites. You're unlocking the capital quickly, like I mentioned. You can focus on other websites and you avoid long-term market volatility, like I just mentioned. But what is the cons of selling a website? I feel like that you lose a passive income stream that could be pretty nice to have, you know. And you also are letting go of future upside. I have sold websites that are doing better now than they were doing when I sold them. So obviously, is that a mistake for me to selling that website? For me, I'm actually kind of happy that that website is doing well, because that means that the things that I was doing on the website was actually, you know, good enough for them to take over and scale it even more. Another thing that I've noticed selling, especially my bigger websites, is that you kind of lose a part of your identity. Let's say that I've always, you know, in the industry been known for the guy that has been owning a certain website, and all of a sudden there's new owners, so affiliate managers are contacting you. asking, oh, can we make a deal? Can I get listed on your website? Can I buy some flat fees? And then I have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not owning this website anymore. So you can talk to the new owners. So that is something that I, on like a personal level, kind of felt that kind of sucked a bit, but didn't really matter that much. So another con, obviously, is that you might regret selling a website in the future. Maybe you feel like you didn't get enough money that you wanted for the website. Maybe you ended up with some terms in the contract that you weren't happy with. For example, when I sold my first website, I was in an earnout period for, I think, a year. And when I went back to the terms and when we were starting to calculate how much money I was actually going to get from the earnout, there was actually some, disagreement with how much I was actually, entitled to. If I was comparing the way I was calculating the earnout compared to the way that they were calculating the earnout. So that was actually something that was a bit of a con when I was selling this website. The multiplier explained. Websites are usually sold for a 20 to 30x monthly profit. And how you're calculating this monthly profit is that you usually take an average of 6 or an average of 12 months of revenue. So this is going to be the average monthly revenue for the last 6 to 12 months. And then you simply multiply this with whatever number that you agree on with the buyer. And there's also some things that can impact this multiplier, and it could be the niche, stability, growth potential, other stuff like that. I'm going to show you an example from one of the pitch decks that I created for one of the websites that I've sold. So just give me a second. So here you can see this is a website that I've sold in 2023. And if you are inside of my community, I think that you can figure out which website this is because I'm sharing this website inside of my course. So also, obviously, if you're interested in checking that out and learning more about how I built this website and stuff like that, you can always join my school community. You can find a link in the description. Also, if you have any questions about any of this, you can also book a free call with me. You can also find a link down in the description. So what I did here is that I put 3 different prices here. One for 295,000 euro. If you're using dollars, I think that that would be a bit more, maybe 320 or something like that. So here I used a multiplier of 22x. And here you get the website and its underlying assets. You get a 6 months handover with me then. And you also get rights opinion to keep the current employees. I talked to the employees that was working on this website, and they agreed on also being on with the new owners. And you also get the affiliate accounts, the mailing list, and complete outreach document for future link building. So here you can see that I included a 6-month handover for 5,000 euro a month. I did the same thing here and the same thing here. So to be honest, like the multipliers are kind of arbitrary. I just put something that kind of looked good. I actually ended up selling this website for quite a lot more. I think that the buyers went for this middle plan. So I did 1 month handover. I think it extended to maybe 2 months. I was fine with that because the buyers were pretty chill people. But I actually had more than one buyer for this website. So it kind of became like a bidding war. So this price increased with, I think, around 20%. Obviously, this document is way longer than this page. I have 13 pages of numbers and stats and backstory and everything like that. And I really like to create these pitch decks and stuff like that. I think it's pretty fun. Maybe in the next Q&A inside of the community, we can go through this document because this is just a sales pitch. It's not covered, I guess, by the NDA. But I also signed a real contract, a real agreement with the buyers that I'm not gonna show. But yeah, that's interesting. So for the people that are maybe a bit interested or curious about the website I have sold, I'm going to go through some of them here. So the first website I sold was actually my first website I ever created. It's a multi-geo website that was targeting like UK. It was targeting a lot of countries, so maybe I don't remember all of them. I think it was like Spain, not France, Netherlands for sure, New Zealand, Canada, Poland. Let's say that it was these countries. I don't remember all of them. But this website, it was the one with the earnout. This one I sold for, to give you an estimate, I sold it for between 380 and 420k euro. Which is, I guess, a bit more in dollars. And then my second website I sold was, this is pretty interesting because I was actually doing Amazon affiliation as well, parallel with me doing casino affiliate marketing. At one point I abandoned this. That's why I sold these 2 projects because I wanted to focus on casino. And this website was in the hammock camping kind of niche, which was pretty interesting. This one I sold for, it was a pretty informal sell, so I can tell you that I sold this one for 70,000. And then I had another one that was also an Amazon affiliation site that was in the topic of back pain and back pain products. Super fun website. I really liked working on this one. It has some really cool content writers and stuff like that. This one I sold in dollars, I remember, through Flippa or Empire Flippers or something like that, for I think around $20,000. I actually forgot one. It was a super small Amazon affiliation site in even more like also like camping. That one I sold for like 2.5K in a Facebook group to a random guy. And then I sold another multi-geo website. I think if you are in my community, you also kind of know which website this is. And this one I'm going to put also an average price. And this one I sold for between 250K and 300K, something like this. And then also I kind of started another fun project that was like a website in Swedish. So it was a Swedish phone plan comparison website. The one buyers that bought this one, they bought it only for the link juice. So they actually redirected it to a new website, which is unfortunate because I really like this website. But I didn't work on it at all. So I felt like I was going to sell it to them because they were doing something similar. So this one I sold for Swedish crowns. So I think that is going to be around 15K, I think I sold it on for. And then after this one, I think I sold a smaller website. It was Australian market casino. And this one I sold for 3K. But still, you know, there was a website that I didn't really work too much on. I didn't really like it that much. It has some traffic, and I think the buyers did the same thing. They redirected it to one of their own websites. And then after that, I sold the website that I showed you in the document earlier. It was also a casino website in one market. And that one went for, I mean, you saw that it went from 275 to 350. So it was somewhere between here. And then I sold my latest project, which was also a casino affiliate website. And there was actually quite a lot of websites. And the interesting part about this is that I'm still running these websites because the company that bought this website, I think I mentioned it in another video. If you go back and check, it's called Am I Leaving the Brazilian Market or something like that, which basically showed you that I sold this website. Since this is the latest website I sold and I'm still working with the company, I'm actually not going to share the price for this one because I don't want to get in trouble. And I also know that the guys are watching my YouTube channel. So shout out to you guys. I love working with you. You are really cool. So yeah, I'm working with a company now, and that is super fun. I have colleagues and stuff. So that's great. I also kind of forgot that I had another one here that was, it was also a Brazilian site. I sold it for, I think, 13K. So it was pretty nice. So these are kind of like an overview of the websites I have sold. If you believe me or not, I don't really care because this is what I have sold. I'm not going to show you any proof of this, but I have done this. So I'm pretty proud with my progress. This has been over a period of 8 years. And I also want to bought website. I bought one website, and it was a Swedish casino affiliation website for 1K. And I've sold backlinks from this website. It's pretty interesting for, I guess, over 20K. I bought it for like 4 years ago, and I'm selling backlinks from it. And I've made over 20K from these websites easily, probably even more, but it's pretty cool. So this could be a good idea if you want to buy a cheap website. I think I got this for way cheaper than it was worth though, because it was from some friends. But never mind, now you understand how the multiplier works. And if you want, you can kind of like count backwards a bit here and kind of understand how much these websites were making monthly. So the right timing when selling a website, I think obviously the best time to sell it in is when the revenue is stable or when it's growing and everything kind of just working. It's easier to sell it to someone. But what I've been feeling is that if I feel a website has peaked, or if I feel like I want to move on to a new project, that is usually when I'm trying to sell a website. So it's also about timing, but it feels like many of the websites I've sold is when someone is approaching me, asking me if I want to sell a website. And then I feel like, oh, why not? I can just sell this website now. Because, I mean, I've gotten a lot of offers on websites also in the past that I've turned down because they weren't high enough. And if someone comes to me and want to buy a website, then maybe we can negotiate the price. And if I feel like the price is right, obviously then I'm going to sell it. So there is not really a right timing. I have recommended some friends to sell a website at the moment because I feel like this would be a perfect time for them to sell. I also helped one of my community members to sell a website for a pretty decent amount, so I'm pretty happy with that as well. So I think for me, it's a lot of intuition when it comes to selling a website. So how to negotiate the sale? Obviously, like I did, you have to have something that looks very professional and very clean, that gives the buyers a very clear view of what you are selling so that they feel that everything is transparent. What I did in the other sale, I think it was 1 year ago, 2024, is that I was leveraging multiple buyers just because I got multiple buyers, because I sent my pitch deck to anyone I could find. I posted it in on forums. I asked friends of friends. I was using brokers. I was using everything to find as many buyers as I could. And it actually kind of paid off. I kind of regret not doing this with other websites because then I just stick to one buyer. I also kind of felt like giving them different options on the price was a good idea, because then maybe you can make them feel like they are in control of the price in a sense. And also selling a website on future potential, I think that that is something that if you're really good at selling and negotiating, you can kind of try to convince a buyer that the future potential is going to be very good. And also using yourself as leverage of knowledge when you're selling a website. If you want to do a handover period, even if you want to join the company that's buying, like I did last time, they really wanted both the website and the revenue stream, but they also wanted to get someone inside of the company that can continue running the website. So there's a lot of different ways to negotiate the sale, and I'm not really talking about sales too much on this channel, even though it's a topic that I really like. But jumping on calls, really talking to them, becoming friends with the buyers, I think that is important to make both feel like you are both happy with the deal. Like I wrote here as well, be ready to justify your asking price. For example, when you're using a multiplier, that's why I used the multipliers in the last product. That was not like, 23x or 21x or 25x. I was using like 23.79x to make the buyer really think that this was a very calculated price, that, like it's out of my hands. This is what the numbers say, stuff like that. So it's pretty fun to negotiate deals. I think the latest deal I made was very straightforward. I think that I said one price, they said a lower price, and then we was like, okay, we're going to meet in the middle. That was super easy. The other sale a year ago was a bit more complicated. We have to do a bit more due diligence, but they also kind of, everything kind of worked with them as well. The bigger website before that was super chill. They didn't really care about any proof or anything, even though all of the numbers were correct. They basically just paid everything immediately and got the site. And the first website that I sold, the first one I created, the due diligence lasted for, I think, 4 months, 3 months or something. We wrote a letter of intent. The price was negotiated. Even in the end, after we did the due diligence, honestly, I didn't really like these buyers. It felt like they were trying to, trick me in the price, which I feel also like they did in a sense. But, I'm not hung up on that anymore. There was just a very good learning experience for me, and I still got a lot of money for it. So I'm still happy. But also, like, you're learning to negotiate. The more websites you're selling, the better you are at sales, the more things you're selling. I think it also comes down to what type of person you are. I really like to negotiate. So for me, this is just kind of a fun process. Kind of realized that this video is getting a bit long, but who cares? Hope you like my voice. So how to complete the sale? You have to create a really good legal agreement. The first one I did was actually with the buyer's lawyer. So they created it, drafted it. It became super long and super confusing. And I think that that's how I got kind of like confused with all of the terms. So I kind of promised myself to never sign a contract that is way too confusing, at least without using my own lawyers. I mean, I went to law school for 3 years, so I kind of have a small grasp on how everything works, but I still feel like at that point I would have needed some expert advice. Include everything the buyer needs, content, access tracking. I wrote affiliate logins, but it's better to have a kind of appendix of all of the affiliate accounts, and then you're giving them the logins in the future. So you need everything that is usually included in a legal agreement. Something that I think I have it here. Something I always include in the legal agreement is that the payment is going to be divided a couple of times, because first you want an initial payment, and then you are sending over the domain, then you get a bigger payment, maybe you're sending over the hosting, and then you get your final payment before you do something. Maybe the domain is the last one I send. Usually I really trust all of the buyers, so maybe that is not necessary. I've never used an escrow service myself because they are just expensive, and like I said, I've always trusted the buyers. But I think escrow could be really good if you're selling websites that are worth, millions. but my website I've sold has not been worth millions. So I've never used it. I always sign all of the documents with DocuSign. I think that that is a pretty reliable tool. And then you have the handover process, basically where everything starts. You have to get the buyers to take the website. You have to get them to understand the website and all of these things that you have negotiated. For the smaller products, this has not really been the case, but for the bigger websites, I've always sometimes prepared like tutorials. I just basically sit like I do now and screen share so I don't have to talk to them, and also so that they can keep the documentation. And I go through a lot of stuff. I'm talking about the website, and obviously I have to send them login access so that they can change the payment method, so they can change the passwords and stuff like that. My biggest tip here is to transfer the assets very early in the process. As soon as everything is finished, transfer the assets, because that is when you're transferring the risk to the buyer. You want them to take over the risk as soon as possible. You're giving them the Google Search Console, you're giving them the hosting, the domain, all of that stuff. So yeah, the smoother the handover, the better the buyer experience is. I think that at least one of my bigger buyers have asked a previous buyer how the sales process with me was, and they got like pretty good feedback. So that is a good thing. In case I want to sell another website in the future, I can just maybe use a reference from a previous buyer. The handover is something that is usually negotiated. It's pretty important to have all of the terms of the handover inside of maybe a contract, but it has never been a problem for me. It's pretty straightforward. Usually what I do is that I'm taking the same hosting provider that I use, and I create a new account for them, and I just transfer all of the websites to their hosting, and then I just give them the access, and then it's finished. Usually the handover process for me takes 1 day. So it's pretty straightforward. And then maybe you can stay with the website for a couple of weeks or whatever. But yeah, an earnout period explained. An earnout period can look in many different ways, but what I did when I sold the first one is that if we reach a certain amount of revenue from the upcoming months after the sales, I'm going to reach different earnout tiers. So the base price was 1, and then I had 3 different tiers. So if you reach this amount in 6 months, you're going to get 50K extra. If you reach this one, you're going to get 100K extra. If you reach this one, maybe you're going to get 150K euro extra. So it's very common in like larger deals, especially the big ones. I've had people that have done like 2 years earnouts. It kind of makes sense sometimes, because then it reduces the buyers, incentives to work with the person that sold it after the sale, and they can also get some insights in the operations and stuff like that. So should you buy a website? That is the question. Like I mentioned, I have bought 1 website. I don't recommend buying a website, especially if you are just new to this, because what happens is that you are basically buying a house without knowing how it was built. And I would be afraid of that. I wouldn't want to just buy a website and go in and try to analyze it, what it was doing right and what it was doing wrong and stuff like that. And also, like, if you're completely new to this, building the website or building the house in this example, it gives you the knowledge on how to maintain it, and also gives you the knowledge on how to build other websites in the future. So on a like subjective or personal level, I would never buy a website when I just got started, because this is how you learn. This is the process. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, book a free call with me in the description. I would love to talk to any of you. Super fun. But until I see you in the next video, have an amazing day. Bye bye.